All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Phillies series, as well as all the latest news and rumors going on in New York Mets land. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, all that great stuff. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored, you're just going to be starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which mainly features Frank's instant post-game reactions after every single regular season game, titled the Mets Frankly Post-Game. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It'll be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 164 of our show. And we have someone who is usually not here regularly. It's occasional appearances for this guy, but Andrew, our third mic, he has come back here. I guess you're technically replacing Frank today, but welcome back, and you get to talk about this team on a high note, completely taking the Phillies to belt to ass, as the kids like to say. They just completely destroyed them. It was fun.
I mean, note to self, I will not say the most Caucasian thing today, because that goes to you after that. But yeah, I only seem to come out of, the basement once either you beat the Dodgers, the Phillies, or if I'm in New York, which was the Dodgers series. But yeah, it's a pretty solid one. Again, I think the vibes are pretty high. I mean, I've been watching the show. You guys have been show negative, and Eric Chavez is the Lord and Savior. We were on his ass. Now this offense is now a top 5 offense in baseball. The pitching, obviously he's getting a little bit of a spark for some youth. So this is what happens when you bring some young people, you get some good offense, put them together, you got a pretty good party.
Yeah, well, I think we all have been going through quite a long season of a team that has looked like it's been going through motions of a team that we feel like it could have been better. And I think that that's what they displayed of what they could possibly do when they are firing at all cylinders. Will it continue to happen every single night? That's the question that I think has to be asked. But it always just seems like every time when the Phillies come to town or when they face this Phillies team, they always seem to get the upper hand on them. And it has been like that for quite a few years now. I think after this series has been done, going into Citi Field, I'm sure everybody has seen this stat by now, the Mets have won 24 of the last 30 meetings at Citi Field against the Phillies. And I think that I don't want to sit here and establish anything and sit here and try to compare traumas or anything. But we all have talked about it with the Mets before, of Atlanta being the house of horrors. Is Citi Field the house of horrors for the Phillies? It may be possible, because it seemed from every aspect in this series, the Mets were in this team's head. And to be honest, after what we have been seeing all season, this has looked like a 2-team division race with the Braves not performing at all to expectation. The Marlins have been okay compared to their usual self, and then the Nationals, of course, just completely failing to meet any expectations with one of their years of their rebuild. But it's a 2-team race, and when you see the Mets having the upper hand on the Phillies, you're like, okay, maybe they do have a shot for this thing. They had a 7-game lead going into this series, and they left with a 4-game lead. So again, the Mets, we all knew that there was only going to be a chance at this division if they swept this series, and that's exactly what they did against this Philadelphia team. Looked a lot more like a complete baseball team, especially compared to this Philly team, which looks so discombobulated as of right now, but they're the least of my worries whatsoever. And the Mets now are in complete striking distance. And before we even get into what happened on the field, the energy from Citi Field, obviously, in the final stretch of this season, Obviously, Andrew, I want to get your thoughts on this. It seemed like in every single one of these games, and I'm not really one to call out the other team as much, but it seemed like in every single one of these games, this team was they were shaken to their core, and it is cool to have an upper hand on another team and not be on the usual side of things. Yet game one, the whole thing with Alec Boehm complaining about something in center field. And then you had Luzardo complaining about a timeout call. You had Taijuan Walker complaining about the on-deck batter being in his line of vision. Usual typical Taijuan Walker complaining about crap. But it just seems like this team, compared to this Mets team, even though we have some of the concerns about whether it is the leadership or the message that is going to be sent, compared to this Phillies team, we are either in their head or this team is just soft. Like, they just seem like they are a soft team, and the Mets are the team that seems to break them every single time. And there's some players on this Phillies team I do like, but there's some of these guys that it's like, they don't seem like winning ball players. Like that's just how it looks like compared to this Mets team when they face us. I'm sure this Phillies team is good. We know that they are good. They're in playoff contention, but when it comes to Mets versus Phillies, it seems like the Mets just hit a whole different level, and the Phillies just sit there and take it. That's just that's just the impression I get.
And obviously, you look at it; they're going in here, and it's kind of great to have that kind of House of Horrors, and it's also to the point of, they've done this even at CBP. Like, the Mets hitters are not scared of, like, who, especially when it gets to that bullpen. Like, there is a confidence with this Mets team when it don't matter who the hell you bring in. It don't matter if you give up 2 top 100 prospects for a guy that everyone wanted the Mets to get. We won't even make it out against him because we have no fear against this team. But from the Phillies' perspective, like, it's so odd. Because, again, you got, like, guys like Bryce Harper. You know, they have the talent on paper. It's just like, I don't get... And Bryce is one of those guys you could think, obviously, even Kyle, because Kyle's one of the best postseason players of his generation.
Yeah.
The fact that these big moment games and on the road, that they just, especially in this ballpark, and this is like... It's so, again, like I said, it's so weird because it always happens to us when it's Atlanta, or it's Miami the last week of the season, or it's, like, other things, like these niche things where, like, you just can't beat them. And again, you're also... The Phillies obviously beat the hell out of the Mariners after we faced them. Oh, am I still here?
You're still here.
All right,
yeah.
Okay. So I got froze on my screen. I didn't know if I was here. So, like, they just had And then I was obviously, like, we all did. We're watching the Phillies broadcast after every game. And they said this was what happened, what they did to the Mariners after the Mets played the Mariners. They beat the piss out of them and gave, 15 hits in each and every game to do that. It's just so weird that, like... It's just like there's no fear, but yet, again, the Mets, you have to kind of give some credit to the Mets, especially from the pitching perspective. Like, there's no fear. It don't matter who you bring in, who you doesn't. It's just maybe an edge that you finally have. And, hey, we've most of our lives, certain years, when you were like 2 years old, there was a period where it's, one team had the edge. And, and now they're saying things, which is kind of the funniest, which I found the most hysterical, is they're saying things that Mets fans, and we've still, not us, but Mets fans have said, oh, it doesn't matter. This team's still good. We have a 5-game lead. It doesn't matter when there's clear problems, because now they're not only have they got swept, they lose Zach Wheeler the week before. Like, this is a team that
vulnerable, very vulnerable,
is that you lose your ace, and now you're expecting, and Christopher Sanchez, who we beat up on game 1, we're cheating, of course, like. They have a top 3 Cy Young guy. Like, Christopher Sanchez is going to probably finish in the top 5. You beat him up. Jesus Luzardo, historically, even with Miami, always carved us. Got into his head, and then obviously our good buddy Alec Boehm, seeing spotlights and, oh, it's scary, and just those little, it seems like any little thing that throws this team off. And it's funny because the city they play for, because that's not a city that, gets, like, this little, like, niche things where it's like, oh, it doesn't bother. Like, usually it's a thick-skinned dickhead, like, motherfucker energy, and this team in Philadelphia does not have it, and it's great to see because, again, there is some hope. It would be nice, 2007 is the 2015 version of 2007, just the roles reverse. I'm just saying, the door's now open.
Yeah.
You did what you're supposed to, and
Philly had a 7-game lead at best going into this series. So I mean, it'll be probably in more games because I'm pretty sure what was it?
Exactly.
2007 was
19.
we had a 7-game lead with like 18
games.
games left.
Yeah.
19 games left, right?
We got plenty of time.
Yeah, but there's like 30 games left. There's like 30 games left. So it's a little bit bigger of a margin. However, the Phillies had so many chances to control their own destiny with head-to-head matchups, and they weren't able to come away. Now, if I were a Phillies fan, even though I probably experienced this with the Rangers a lot, and Matt is in the chat, he can attest to this, I would say that, like, I would ask, I'd be like, what is going on with this? Like what happened to this tough nose type of identity that Philly had? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what happened? I know from a New York perspective, it's not something, but I'm just saying it's like, what happened here? And like, to be honest, from seeing Bohm complain this much and Luzardo complain this much and all of this,
Sanchez,
and all this stuff, and obviously Taiwan Walker Sanchez is even starting to, unravel a little bit. I would be like, okay, this team is kind of unlikable. I'm not going to lie. Like, this team just whines and cries all the time. And, that's things that we experience. But I really, there's things obviously with this team that I feel like they're a little bit soft in a few departments. But, I mean, maybe it's weighing on them that maybe their window is closing. I don't know. And I'm not saying this to talk trash or anything, but I'm just saying it's like, you can see it visibly that this Phillies team is not in the position they were in 2022 when they went to the World Series. Like, they have been taking steps backwards, and it's not getting any better. Nobody's getting any younger. And they also just lost one of their frontline pieces. Like we said, Zach Wheeler, they just lost. And, they're dealing with, Bryce Harper getting older, playing first base now. Kyle Schwarber could be gone. Trey Turner, as good of a season as he probably has had compared to what he's been doing recently with Philly, where was he in this series? Nowhere to be found. Because that's usually where he is on the big stage. Nowhere to be found. And that's the main reason as to why what separates a guy like Lindor from Trey Turner, and that's the one thing that I've tried to say to you so many different years, you Trey Turner looking loving fuck. Anyways, it's just one of those things where it's great to be on the good side of this now. It's finally good to be on a good side on one of these matchups. It always seems like the Mets are the team that never can back things up, can never be that team that comes out on top and is the team that prevails. But in these types of matchups with the Phillies for the last few years, multiple years now, they have been sticking it to them. They have been completely sticking it to them. In the playoffs last year, beat up on that bullpen. In this series, they beat up on their bullpen. They beat up on their bullpen earlier at Citi Field and swept them as well. As Matt said here, they have the tiebreaker now on the Phillies because of it. Let's not forget the combined no-hitter they had in 2022, the 7-1 comeback, the Mark Canha bat flip in Philadelphia. I mean, they have tormented this Phillies team over these past few years. And it's great to see that is withholding right now. And again, there still is another team that I'm probably more scared to play than this Phillies team, and that being the Braves, because the Braves, for some reason, always seem to bring up, to be honest, the team that we're playing tonight for the next 4 days, that's the team I'm a little bit more scared of, and that's kind of just more based off of the history. But this Phillies team, they match up well with them. They have continued to match up well with them. And it's very, very impressive to see how much the Mets have over this Phillies team that is expected to be in contention every single year, that has expectations just like this Mets team. And, we've heard plenty of stuff of how the Mets just seem to have the advantage on this Phillies team that has really, that's the crazy part, they've really emphasized since those bullpen struggles that they had in 2020 or 2021 or 2019, they really emphasized, they brought in so many different relievers to bolster their bullpen. And it seems like every single time one of those guys goes out there to the mound, the Mets completely dismantle them. And it happened in that playoff series. It happened in that, in this series. It happened in the series earlier this season. It's happened multiple times where the Mets have just completely beaten up on this team's bullpen. And that's the main reason as to why they can't shorten the game. Why their starters going deep into the game doesn't seem to be as big of a factor, because it always seems like the Mets will get to this team no matter what. And that's the good thing. That's the really, really good thing. Let's just say that. Matt's saying in the chat, the Mets even swept the Phillies at Citi Field in 2023. They did. And that 2023 team was not great. It was not great. It always just seems like playing the matchups. That's why I've never been someone who's been like, oh, I'm scared to play this team, or I'm scared to play this team in the playoffs or whatever. I mean, the only teams that I'm probably cautious about are the Braves and the Marlins, and neither of those teams are going to be in the playoffs this year. So, there's been times, you got to play these games, and you never know what can happen, and the Mets completely dominated. They completely dominated this Phillies team, and they looked like the team that we all have been waiting for. A resilient team, a team full of talent, and that has been the most promising part about it. So let's get into actually what went on the field in these 3 games after this sweep. Like we said, complete ownership over this Phillies team. We'll start off with Game 1. Kodai Senga would make the start, and he'd continue his struggles. He'd ride his pitch count high, pitch into the 5th inning, hit the first batter, and he'd get pulled for Jose Castillo, who would erase Senga's base runner with a huge 4-6-3 double play and finish the inning to close the book on Senga. 4+ innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts on 93 pitches. Down 3-0 in the 4th. The Mets offense would explode for the rest of the ninth. For the rest of the night, scoring 13 unanswered runs. So let's recap this one really quickly. Mark Vientos RBI double to get the Mets on the board. Brandon Nimmo RBI single to make it a 1-run game. Jeff McNeil RBI single to tie the game at 3. In the 5th, Mark Vientos RBI double to give the Mets a 4-3 lead. In the 6th, Luis Torrens RBI double, 5-3 Mets. Starling Marte RBI single, 6-3 Mets. In the 7th, Jeff McNeil sacrifice fly, 7-3 Mets. Luis Torrens would launch a 3-run homer, his 3rd of the year, 10-3 Mets. And in the 8th, Tyrone Taylor RBI single, 11-3 Mets. RBI single from Jeff McNeil once again, 12-3 Mets, and Luis Torrens RBI single, 13-3 Mets. The Mets bullpen would be spotless as well. Hitless innings from Tyler Rogers, Brooks Raley, Ryan Helsley, and Ryan Stanek to finish the game for a blowout series opener win, 13-3. In Game 2, Sean Manaea would make the start, and after 4 hard-fought innings of scoreless ball, he'd run into some trouble in the 5th. A leadoff single to Harrison Bader and a 2-out single to Trey Turner. Manaea would be pulled for Gregory Soto, who would surrender both Manaea's base runners on a 2-run single by Bryce Harper to open up the scoring and close the book on Manaea. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts on 90 pitches, but the Mets would fight back in the bottom of the inning after a leadoff hit by pitch to Luis Torrens and a single by Francisco Lindor. Juan Soto would get the Mets on the board with an RBI single. After a walk to Starling Marte to load the bases, Pete Alonso would give the Mets the lead on a 2-run double, his 104th and 105th RBIs of the season. Mark Vientos would follow him with an RBI single of his own, and Brandon Nimmo would add on with a sacrifice fly to extend the Mets lead to 5-2. Huskar Brazaban would come out to pitch the 6th. He'd struggle a bit. A leadoff single and back-to-back one-out hits would plate a run for Philly to make it a 2-run ball game. Tyler Rogers would get the 7th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout and 2 ground balls on 7 pitches. However, Ryan Helsley would continue to struggle in the 8th. More on him later. Following a 1-out walk, former Met Harrison Bader would tie the game at 5 with a 2-run homer. He would get only 1 out, forcing the Mets to go to Edwin Diaz. who would strike out Brandon Marsh and Trey Turner to keep the game tied. Diaz would come back out for the ninth and strike out Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, and getting JT Realmuto to ground out, keeping the game tied at 5 once again. The Mets would face the flame-throwing right-hander Johan Duran in the ninth, and they'd show zero fear. Back-to-back singles by Starling Marte and Pete Alonso, a parachute single to left field to load the bases by Brett Beatty to set up Brandon Nimmo for the game-winning RBI single, walking off the Phillies in the bottom of the ninth to take the first two games of the series 6-5. And in Game 3, Nolan McLean would make his third major league start, and he would dominate. 8 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts on 95 pitches, a complete masterclass. The Mets would rough up former Met Taijuan Walker in the third after a leadoff double from Brett Beatty and an infield single on a bunt attempt by Hayden Sanger to make it first and third. Francisco Lindor would get the Mets on the board with an RBI single, and Juan Soto and Pete Alonso would follow with RBI singles of their own to extend the Mets' lead to 3-0. The Mets would add on in the fifth after a one-out walk to Pete Alonso, a single from Brandon Nimmo to make it first to third, and Mark Vientos would make it 4-0 on an RBI single. And following a 2-out single from Brandon Nimmo in the seventh, Mark Vientos would launch his 13th home run of the year, a 427-foot shot to left center, putting the Mets up 6. Brooks Raley would get the ninth in relief of McLean. He'd work around a leadoff infield single to toss a scoreless inning with a strikeout, completing the sweep of Philly in Game 3, 6-0. The Mets are now 72-61 on the season, now shrinking the Phillies' lead in the NL East to 4 games and currently holding a 4.5 game lead on Cincinnati for the final wild card spot. Obviously, plenty to talk about in this series, plenty of good. The Mets were fantastic in this series with runners in scoring position, 21 for 37 with runners in scoring position. When has that ever happened in a series for this team? How? When has that ever happened? Ever. I don't think it has seen it happen this year. They were just putting the ball in play and scaring the Phillies away. Rhymes, dropping rhymes. Anyways, Andrew, plenty of ways to go with this one. Plenty of great things to see. It was awesome. We'll get into that one thing that was not fantastic in this series later on. But other than that, the offense came out to play, and they just beat up that Philly bullpen and rotation, just completely shoved them down the Queens drain, basically, just down the New York sewers, okay? They destroyed them. Dominated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess let's go back to Game 1. I think Game 1 kind of set the tone of this to the series. But the bigger thing is, it was the bottom half of the lineup. You got nothing from Lindor. Yeah. Soto gave you, I think, obviously a couple walks. Alonso, it was Luis Torrens, Beatty, Vientos, Marte. It's that bottom of the lineup where, like, this was what we hoped and prayed. And then when the offseason, we looked at this lineup, we're like, this can be a deep 1 through 9, and now you're starting to see Jeff McNeil, being a productive major leaguer, Brett Beatty being a productive big leaguer, Mark Vientos getting back to that last year form that we've been waiting all season for, and we all thought, okay, when Alvarez just starts to get going again, he gets hurt again, you're like, okay, now who's going to step up? And it's been Vientos and Beatty that have continued to step up and to lengthen this lineup. Starling Marte and Jeff McNeil, who had that on your bingo card of both guys having an over 800 OPS and being well above average baseball players. Imagine saying that from last year. So you're seeing the depth of this lineup. You're still, at least in 2 of the starts, not getting from the 2 guys that we thought we had the most reliability in the rotation. Still can't get deep with Mania and Senga. You see Tyler Rogers look better, and obviously Raley closing out. Then you get, McLean. You got it overall. It seemed every aspect of this team in this series was great, except one, which we'll get to later. Again, Soto's getting his walks. Lindor seems to be getting a little bit going. Brazaban comes in, and he sent him back down to give, he can be a guy that can give you length, and that inning was just, and then magically the next day, his shoulder hurts, and now he's back on the IL. Gotta love those. I thought Billy Epler got fired. I thought Phantom IL things were gone, but besides the point. Overall, from an offensive perspective, you're seeing, like you said, runners in scoring position. What have we been crying for all year? That this team cannot hit, and that has to be. And we could check it. We could check the data or whatever. That this has to be the best percentage, batting average. One is simplistic, the best batting average in a series.
Yeah.
The series the Mets have had to runners in scoring position all year. And again, it's even better. Again, it's against the division rival in the at the point biggest series of the season. Obviously, we got a bigger one in about a week, but again, just to show what this team was built on, and that was the offense. And you got enough from your pitching, and obviously you got plenty more from your rookie, but you got enough from the pitching, and the offense carried like we all thought going into the season.
Yeah, no, it was a great display over these 3 games. I was very, very happy. There's not really much complaints that you get from me, and that's very, very rare because I can be very, very articulate into what I think. I think there is a way where you can say that the Mets made a statement here that they're not going anywhere just yet. Obviously, we knew that, with 7 games, the way that they've been playing these last 2 months, that a 7-game lead, usually that's a big margin. But again, we all knew this, and I think I've said this on our show probably back in May or June. We said this on this show. It really didn't have anything to do with scoreboard watching of if the Phillies are going to lose or not. The Mets were going to have to take out the Phillies themselves. And that's exactly what they did here. And look at that. They just gained 3 games on them. And now it's a 4-game lead with a 4-game series coming up next week. And by probability, could it be 3 games by that time? Could it be 2 games? Maybe 5 games? Like, you don't know. You're staying tight in this division race going into September, which is good, especially with how they have been playing. But recently, you've seen the offense wake up a little bit. You've seen a little bit more of consistency. You're seeing the depth in this lineup. Like you said, the bottom part of the order able to put up 13 runs and be the main, facilitators for that, with our top hitters that we expected doing absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, our top hitters come in game 2 and in game 3, and they play a complete series. I think this is probably the best series they played all season. I'm not going to lie. I think from all complete aspects, you got volume from at least one starting pitcher where the bullpen didn't have to kill themselves. You had situational hitting the entire time. The defense was great in this series too. The defense was fantastic. We saw Mark Vientos play a really good third base. We saw, obviously, Beatty continuing to play a really good third base. We saw some really good scoops from Alonso. We saw 2 really strong throws from Nimmo and Soto with the game at 6-0. What was it, in the ninth or in the eighth? In the eighth, with Nolan still out there, keeping his shutout. I mean, they played an all-around fantastic game, an all-around fantastic series. Hopefully this keeps up. I'm hoping that they continue to be hot going into right now. Will it keep up? We'll see. And to be honest, against the Marlins, that is a complete that is a complete test, because we all know how the Marlins are towards the end of the year. They love to break our hearts. So again, that's quite a test. And if it all is more of just based up on the matchups of the Mets not playing well against these good teams, these bad teams, and then chesting up to the good teams, yeah, that makes you feel good for the postseason, but you should be putting yourself in a better position, beating up bad teams, and they should be beating this Marlins team on paper, and hopefully that ends up happening. But again, every single thing that the Phillies threw at them in this series, or tried to throw at them in this series, didn't seem to bother the Mets at all. Yohan Duran is one of the most disgusting arms this game has ever seen. Not just in the game right now, one of the most disgusting arms you will ever see whatsoever. This guy can touch 104 miles an hour, 105 miles an hour. He's got that ridiculous mid-90s splinker. I'm pretty sure he can throw a 90-mile-an-hour curveball / screwball or whatever the hell it is. He's disgusting. He is a disgusting arm. And the Mets didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a single beat, and it was great to see them do that the entire time. They hit that guy hard, aside from Brett Beatty, because Brett Beatty, obviously, not that good. However, Brandon Nimmo completely destroyed him. Starling Marte getting it going. By the way, Starling Marte has been fantastic, by the way. Can we talk about Starling Marte for a second? We've talked about, obviously, the overall value of Starling Marte, what you're paying him to be a DH. That obviously is just a sunk cost at this point. But Starling Marte, the impact that he has had since he came back from that injury, what was it? It was like a knee bruise or something that he had before the second half started. Since then, he has made quite an impact on this team, and he has been in the middle of a lot of these offensive explosions or offensive distributions from either the middle of the lineup. He's been batting third as well. He's been fantastic, and I feel like the way that he has been playing, he has also been leading by example. We just saw Juan Soto say that he thinks that he is the leader in that clubhouse. And it obviously makes sense. He's 36 years old. He's one of the older guys in that play. We call him Unk. I mean, even the Mets social media team is calling him Unk now. When you got, the leaders playing like that, when you have the older players, the veteran players playing like that, it's infectious. We saw it a lot with Jose Iglesias last year. We saw it a lot with JD Martinez last year. And when you have a guy leading by example like that, that's big. Obviously, he can't really show, the hustle he used to. He's not the same Starling Marte. But I think we all can agree here. Matt is saying it. Unk still got it. Unk has still got it, and he's been a really big contributor to this team. And listen, I will say it again because it gets misconstrued all the time. People think I don't like Starling Marte. I love Starling Marte. I don't like his contract at all. I don't like that situation. However, I've loved Starling Marte throughout his entire career. I miss the old Starling Marte that would swipe 30 to 40 bags every year and show you from all aspects of the game how entertaining of a player he is. When he came in 2012, he was one of my favorite players in all of baseball. So again, I love the guy. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great leader, and he's a great, mentor for some of these guys in this clubhouse. The situation of how he's had to adjust to this role, he's done a great job of it. And I think that you can agree as well.
Yeah, and obviously his performance deserves playing time, but also now you're seeing Vientos getting rage hot. Now the question is how do you get him in the lineup? You don't really want to stick him out in left field. They're not taking Nimmo, and obviously you're not taking Soto out. So if you have to kind of hit and choose, okay, you can go with the bad defense like we saw last night where you're just going full offense. You're putting McNeil back in center. You can put Beatty back at second, and you can put Vientos at third and put Marte at DH. But that's kind of now the problem is that both of them now with Vientos raging and Marte's been pretty consistent. Besides obviously he was injured for a little bit, but good bats to get in the lineup. Which again, imagine saying this a few months ago. We were begging somebody in the second half of the lineup to get hot, and now we've got too many guys that we can't get him in the lineup every day. And it's a good problem to have, and man, that's up to Mendy now to sort out the playing time to figure out, okay, do we go with the defensive lineup? It also probably depends on the pitcher. McLean being a ground ball pitcher can maybe do. I would have probably put defense first, but it's a Philadelphia. You want to beat up on the Phillies, it's different. Okay, go full offense. I have no problem with that. But especially if McLean's ground ball rate is going to be as insane as it's going to be, I'd prefer to have the better defensive infield. But again, if you're going strictly, you're playing the Phillies, you need your best 9 offensive bats in there. I'm never going to say no to it. And obviously, we've seen Mendoza late in games going to Beatty at third and bringing in Mauricio at second or moving McNeil wherever McNeil's playing. And, Keith's talking about, hey, McNeil deserves to be in the Gold Glove utility. And as much as we joke about that, Squirrel, he's got a case. Again, obviously, you've got some other great utility guys, but it seems that anywhere you put him, he's robbing homers or robbing extra base hits or whatever against Bader in last night's game. So, again, he's versatile, and having that ability is pretty damn good. And having the problem of, we've got a bunch of 800 OPS guys, we got to find a way to get them in the lineup, like I'll continue to say. It's a good thing.
Oh, shucks. Shucks. That sucks. I mean, if you look at what you're seeing from part-time from Starling Marte, and I don't think that they want to put him in the lineup every day because that's kind of his role now. He's kind of this part-time player, which he's done a really good job at. Obviously, being a part-time player that's making $20 million, not ideal, but it's kind of what you just have to do now. I mean, his body is obviously slowing down. It's very noticeable. He's not stealing bases the way that he used to. He's not moving the way that he used to. He's not great defensively, but we know that the arm is still there. As Ricardo said, he threw out a runner at home against the Braves. He did. Yep. Again, he can still contribute as well. But if you're looking at this guy, career slash line, he is slashing 284 this year, 361, 441, and he is a career 286, 343, 441 hitter. So again, he's playing to what he has been throughout his entire career at an advanced age, but more in a part-time role, which has been very, very impressive. Same thing goes for Jeff McNeil, who has made some fantastic adjustments since coming back. What was it? He came back in like May, beginning of May or something.
Yeah.
One thing I'm completely enamored with here has been the bat speed that he's completely. It's obviously not top tier, but again, we're talking about a bat speed here that was lower as 10%. I mean, he's in the 30th percentile now in bat speed. Like, he's actually worked on adding a little bit more power, and he's been a really good contributor without batting 300, which we thought that Jeff McNeil could never do. So again, when it came to McNeil and able to put him in these different positions, I think that he has been the trooper that I did not expect him to be honest. I really did not expect him to be like that, because we know that Jeff McNeil has a tendency to complain when he doesn't get his way, and he's not someone who likes to do things another way, but he's been willing to play center field. He's been playing the corners of positions that he barely does end up playing. He's been willing to give second base time to guys like Brett Beatty, guys like maybe Mauricio or something. Like, he's been willing to do that, and that's what I think has been very, very impressive. What I think has been so impressive in general from Jeff McNeil, and has really just showed it in a little bit more of a light of the guy who complains when things don't go his way, and is just a mental case when things aren't going his way. But this year, I think that he's definitely toned it down, and I really am very impressed, and I'm very satisfied with this type of McNeil that we are seeing going into his 30s. Is he still my best friend? No, he's not. I mean, we still got a long sequence of beef, but one thing I can say is that he's shown the value for the first time since signing that extension. He's shown the value of what he's been able to provide, of being a very good plus bat, being a contributor in this lineup, situationally as well, in high leverage situations, not to mention the positional versatility. So again, I have been pleasantly surprised. I'm very, very impressed what we've seen from Jeff McNeil. And again, it makes the lineup deeper if these guys continue to contribute. If guys contribute consistently, if guys continue to contribute and they continue to do things at a rate that's more efficiently, you're going to win a lot of ball games. Like we said, we have not seen the Mets dominate a series whatsoever. What was so dominating about this series? Runners in scoring position. They were cashing in. They were not leaving damage on the table. They were destroying this team in Philly that is just in a situation where they can't win in this ballpark. And we've continued to talk about, from playing the matchups, and the Mets in every single class completely outplayed this Phillies team from the beginning of Game 1 to the end of Game 3. And that has been the most impressive part of how well they match up with this team, and it shows you how good they can be. And that is what makes it so frustrating sometimes when we see them go on these streaks where they're not showing what they're capable of, because we know exactly what this team is capable of. And it's not just to sit here and to be mean and negative or different or anything. We know what this team is capable of. That, what we just saw these last 3 days, that is what they are capable of. And we know that they can do it consistently. And that's why we want to see it. So hopefully it carries on into a Marlins series that seems to be always an issue towards the end of the season. But they have put themselves in a better spot here, and that is what is encouraging about this. I feel a lot better about this team than I did after the end of that Atlanta series or at the end of even that Seattle series. I just feel like we were still leaving too much on the table. The Mets didn't do that at all in this series, and it was very, very evident that they just took control like that over this Phillies team. They gave them no air to breathe whatsoever. We'll get into the one guy. That maybe gave them a little bit of air in a second, like we have said. We're going to talk about the big elephant in the room coming out of the bullpen. But beforehand, let's get into one way that we can just, recap this the best way that we know how, with everybody's favorite segment, Studs and Duds. One player in this series that was great, we want to give flowers to. One that was not so great, and I'm sure that's going to lead into our next segment. But Andrew, I'll go to you. Stud for this series. Do you remember how to do this?
I mean, it's been a minute, but I think the stud is someone. It's been a minute. I think Stud's the good people. I'll save you to give you the obvious one. I'm gonna go Edwin Diaz. Like, he came in game one, or game two, striking 4 to 5 batters he's facing. I mean, that is what he is brought here to. He is the best reliever in baseball. He comes in just mowing guys down, and obviously we'll get to the other guy. Could have been a save situation, but again, we'll talk about him in a minute. But just for him to come in, especially, and how many times have we seen, the Mets blow a lead, and then when you bring the next reliever, and it's usually the first pitch, now you're losing. He just came in and says, all right, enough. This game's going to stay tied, and we're going to get at least to the ninth inning, at least get to the bottom of the ninth. If we could walk it off, we're at least going 2 extra innings. In the fact that to get the ball, to say, you know what, enough's enough. Bryce Harper, Schwarber, it doesn't matter. Trey Turner, he owns Kyle Schwarber. I think like we make fun of we've been saying like how the Phillies see nightmares. I think Kyle Schwarber sees Edwin Diaz at his nightmares every day. He has said he cannot pick up that slider, and it is proof every time. You see an AB Schwarber against the 0 for 12 with like 9 punches.
0 for 12, 10 strikeouts.
10 strikeouts. It was something like it was. Yeah.
And listen, I love Kyle Schwarber. He's one of my favorites in this game, even as a Mets fan. But yeah, I mean, that's my number one guy right there. I mean, it makes sense. You can't hit him. He's unhittable. He is. We know he is.
Yeah. So again, besides being basic, I'll let you be the basic answer. But yeah, just to see again, because that game could have been, you had the game in hand, and then somebody comes in, ties the game up, and that game could have gone south quickly, and he just came and just shuts the door and says, all right, enough. I'm giving us an opportunity to win this game.
Yeah. The stud for the Phillies, by the way, in this series was Harrison Bader. Just for Frank, I'm going to look that
directly. It's your fault.
Directly into the camera. Harrison Bader. Told you. Anyways, no, I think that there's a collection of plenty of guys that we can shout out here because, again, it was just collectively, as a team, from every aspect, just a complete domination of Philly. Mark Vientos, another great series. He is getting red hot. He looks so good. He's looked really good over this past month. Glad to see him get back into that form. We're seeing. We talked about it actually. I think one of our previous episodes about some of the either the adjustments that he has been making or the hitting profile just being a lot different from when it started off to start off the year. The bat speed seems to be back, matching last year's. Since that big hit he had in KC. He's slowly but surely coming along. And we talked about it with Mark Vientos so many times. We say this every single time. If he's not hitting, he's the worst player on the team because he's not going to he is not going to provide anything else, anything whatsoever. Nolan McLean. I mean, what else can you say about this kid? He is just unreal. It's not just the stuff, it's just the way that it is presented to these guys of the fact that he knows that I know I have good stuff and I am going to kill you with it. I will destroy you with it. And that is how he brought in so much volume for this team. He was at 49 pitches through 5. He was going at such an efficient rate, striking guys out, getting the ball on the ground so much. He has so many different dimensions to his repertoire, obviously, with a great 6-pitch mix. He is one of the most talented arms I think I've ever seen. Hopefully it continues to pan out. Hopefully he doesn't end up like that other, so talented arm that can't execute whatsoever. But I think he's a lot bigger of a prospect than that. It is great to have this type of excitement every 5 days to see a pitcher take the mound. Obviously, we know that he is the first of so many different young pitchers that have yet to make their debut that are in the system that we're all really excited for, including one guy who's going to make his debut in this upcoming series against Miami. But Nolan McLean, I mean, just the way that he carries himself, the way that he's able to execute, the way that just the incredible way that this guy spins the ball with the overall explosiveness. He just has everything going for him. Everything that is going for him. And the ceiling is so high for this kid. And we know that for damn sure, especially with how fast that he developed and how quick of a learner that he has become. It's been so special to watch for just 3 starts already. He has made a bigger impression than I think anybody in this starting rotation this year. Maybe aside from David Peterson, who's been fantastic and in incredible length for this team. But in comparison to that, he's young, he's great. And then also there's another factor that I think is also being overshadowed a lot with these young pitchers. It seems like everybody from McLean or Sproat or Tong, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, or any of these other guys that are coming up, they also can field their position fairly well as well. We have definitely veered away from a lot of these pitchers who are not the best athletes, but they do they focus on what is in front of them. However, we have obviously David Peterson, one of the few who is a really good athlete, incredible pickoff move, obviously covers first base you're supposed to, but we're seeing Nolan McLean do that as well. Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat, he's somebody who does that well as well. So again, fielding your position, having great athletes as well overall just shows you how much this guy has going for him. Now, obviously, we're not going to completely put him in the Hall of Fame yet. There may be some speed bumps in the road. Who knows? But we all know that the foundation of Nolan McLean, I mean, wow. Just wow. I mean, this kid has been impressive since the first pitch he threw 2 weeks ago to now. He just keeps topping it. So does he throw a complete game shutout against Detroit? I don't know. Maybe he will, because he keeps to just topping it. It has been so special to watch. So special to watch. And to think that he's just the tip, of the iceberg coming to Queens right now with other young guys on the way. It's exciting. It is very, very exciting. If there's anything you want to add, because Nolan McLean, just incredible. Incredible. I don't know what else you can say at this point. It's been insane just for 3 starts to see what this kid is capable of.
Yeah, and again, the craziest part is most people see him as he's the second guy. Like, he's the number 2 guy. Obviously, we'll get to the guy who everyone thinks it has the higher upside and the younger guy of the two. We'll see tomorrow night. Yeah. But again, just to be the first pitcher in Mets history to win their first 3 starts for a franchise that's had so many great pitches. It's insane. But again, it's like you said, it's progressively got better, because 5 in the third and the first. He gives you 7. You have the 2 runs in Atlanta, and then he goes 8
in the House of Horrors.
In the House of Horrors, exactly, to steal the Phillies' new favorite thing to say now. So again, I'm not expecting a complete game against Detroit, but just to prove, to say, hey, you've got this guy now 6 years for cheap. Again, there will be some back. Oh, we should have been up here earlier. Yeah, maybe you could have won a few more games in May or June. Yeah. I'd rather have him, for an extra year than just, hey, we won 2 to 3 more games. In the race, it could be important at the end of the year, but right now, again, Stearns never has the idea of, let's just focus on today. He's focusing 2 to 3 years in the future, not just for right now.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing of McLean. I am one of in the few, and it's going to sound kind of stupid because of, the struggles they've had with this rotation recently after those 2 months where they were so crazy, but I'm so happy that they waited that out. I really am, because it shows me that David Stearns was so confident in saying that, you know what, maybe I don't need to really get a starter. I'm just like, and it's a bold thing to do. It is a bold thing to do to say, this prospect's going to fill in here. But I mean, we've seen plenty of different prospects that have come up through the Brewers system that David Stearns, even though he didn't really have a choice because he didn't have the resources, obviously, to go out and get big pitching, Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, like there's been plenty of guys where he's like, oh yeah, we're confident in this kid. He's going to do something, but we are going to take it slow here. We are going to let him develop because that's the only way that it's going to actually work out. And they gave him those extra innings in AAA. Didn't do it for the guy who's going to about to be called up. So we'll see what happens there. We'll get into that. But I mean, Nolan McLean, unreal. And like I said, Starling Marte, another one you can put out there as well. He was really, really good in this series. Any other guys we can put out there?
I mean, Terenz's 5 RBI game in game 1.
Yeah, Terenz.
Who had that.
He had a good
bingo
series.
card.
Yes. Terenz had a really, really good really good series. And then you also can mention, to be honest, I'm not going to lie, because I do want to put Jose Castillo in there because that big double that double play was really, really big.
And he threw like 3
in
pitches,
that fifth inning.
Yeah, he got those.
He only threw like
3
3 pitches, but that was a momentum shifter right there. That really was. It was a really big momentum shifter, obviously, because the Mets were down 3-0 in that game, and they were able to kind of keep that game close. And then obviously the Mets completely went off, and that was big. But that's just like a really strong specific. The bullpen in general, you can also put there. Because the bullpen, I think, minus that one guy that we will get into in a second. Tyler Rogers was good. Brooks Raley was good. Ryan Stanek even had a good outing in that first game. I mean, yes, they exploded for 13 runs, but also the bullpen was spotless. And I mean completely spotless. They had 1 walk, 0 hits throughout 5 innings pitched, which is remarkable. Brett Beatty had a really good series. I mean, you had a entire lineup that you could probably put in there. Brandon Nimmo had the big walk-off hit, and he was also contributing in the middle as well from the cleanup spot, which we've talked about before from him. Plenty of offensive performances that have been big. Collective team win, collective team series sweep. Now for the duds, there's obviously one here that we will get into a little bit more specifically here. But Andrew, if there's anybody else that you want to kind of throw in there,
Yeah, I think this is more of a conglomeration of starts. I mean, he didn't have a good one in this one either. And it's Kodai Senga. Again, this was a guy that we had.
I got him here too. Yeah.
We have as a guy that we thought this was our ace. Like, we thought the young guys maybe down the stretch would help. But this was one of the guys that we thought in the offseason, this is a contributor that we can count on. And it was great in the first half, maybe misleading with the ERA because, we gotten lucky or whatever you want to call it. But ever since he's come back from that injury, which is his yearly trying to cover a base and he pulls a hamstring or something in his oblique goes off, he's just not attacking the zone and maybe the ball is moving and he has no idea where it's going. But it's just like you got guys 0-2 and you can't put them away. You end up walking them. It's just like the consistency of Kodai Senga of – there is no let me go get him where it's like he's nibbling. He gets up 0-2 and he throws 3 straight ghost forks and the hitter's not swinging, so it full count goes full, and then he throws an uncompetitive ball 4, and it's just like it's an irritating watch where it's like you've seen the talent, and we've seen the talent in spurts of 2 years, and it's just like there was a good pitcher in it, but when will he, if ever, are we going to see that guy again? Where it's like, okay, it's been 4 starts post-surgery or post-injury. Like, we need to start seeing at least some of that first half Senga before the injury, where we're getting regression compared to any progression start from start.
Yeah, I think that there's a thick layer of fear underneath the surface with this. I do think there is, and there's going to be plenty of conversations that I feel like we're going to have in the offseason about Kodai Senga, which we're not going to have right now. But again, it's just been laboring. I feel like ever since he got injured. I just think he doesn't know where the ball is going. I really don't. And I feel like the overall accommodations for what you've been getting and what you have been giving to him have been the reason as to why it's so frustrating. Because if he didn't need 5 days of rest instead of 4, if he didn't need this or that, it'd probably be a little bit more understandable. But it seems like the accommodations that are made for Kodai Senga, it's not really helping him. it really doesn't seem like it's helping him. It seems like we're getting a bare minimum from a guy we expected to be a frontline piece in this rotation, and it's a little concerning. It really is concerning. We'll get into that eventually. Obviously, there is one guy also in this dud category, once again, who has been horrendous since coming over to the Mets, and that being Ryan Helsley, where I want to transition into talking about Ryan Helsley and his struggles. Obviously, the Mets sent over 3 assets to the Cardinals in exchange for Ryan Helsley. He is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so it looks like obviously a rental. One of them included Jesus Baez, who is the top, basically the front guy, obviously, but he was in the lower levels, so he's not going to be in the majors for quite a while, even if he does end up being like that. But obviously, with the Mets, Ryan Helsley, so far as a Met, it has been quite a nightmare. Let's just say that. He has an earned run average over 10, which is skewered for relievers, obviously, but he's been coming in for clean innings. It's been his own wrongdoing, obviously. He has given up runs in, let's say, he has come in for 11 outings. He has given up runs in about, I think, 7 of them. And he's just not looked good whatsoever. And I think that there's a few reasons why. I don't think that this means that the Mets are just going to completely give up on him, because I still think that they're going to give him a chance. However, time is running out here. And I'm not going to say that, this has become one of the worst acquisitions they've ever made. But for the role that we wanted to put him in here, to get the bridge to Edwin Diaz, he ain't doing a really, really good job. And I feel like there's plenty of reasons as to why, and I will get into them. But Andrew, I know that, Ryan Helsley is someone that you've watched throughout St. Louis for multiple years now, obviously, before him coming over to the Mets. At one point, he was one of the best relievers in all of baseball, and he was completely dominant. But I feel like every time we hear Hell's Bells right now, we're holding our breath. Like that's basically it. It has been a disaster so far from Helsley. I don't think it can get any worse, but I don't want to give it to him as a challenge. So what are your thoughts on what you're seeing from Ryan Helsley? Because this is obviously the stuff is still there, but we know it's just terrible. Like it has been a tragedy to watch him just completely implode the way that he has over this entire stretch in August since coming over to the Mets.
Yeah, it's getting bad. Where I think I saw Evans tweet. He's like, "Hey, he's making us miss Michael Givens as a trade deadline reliever." I'm like,
yeah,
all right, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been that bad where it's just. And I find it so funny because I remember when the first outing he had against the Giants, and Ron was even saying like, the slider was unhittable in St. Louis. He was like, left-handed hitters were over, 28 against the slider when he moved over in St. Louis until he came over here. And the slider's been horrific. He's hanging it, and it's, and I think Gary even said it. It's like, it almost feels like 2019 Diaz where any pitch, any mistake he's making, it's not a single, it's not a double, it's in the stands. And it's like back-breaking hit after back-breaking hit, and to the point again, we're post deadline, so like this was, and it's kind of funny that last year Stearns goes for the crafty, under the radar moves, and it doesn't work. This year he finally goes, gets guys with pedigree that have had great success in the major leagues, and it doesn't work. At least in this half, Rogers has been hit or miss. Soto's been pretty solid overall wise, but
Rogers I'll defend.
Rogers it's soft contact, like it is. I wouldn't be bringing him in.
Rogers is forever a GOAT. You'll have to get through me if you're gonna talk shit about Rogers.
It's not. I'm not doing it. It's just kind of. Let's not bring him in with guys. He needs to be kind of a clean inning guy because he doesn't strike out enough guys. He's gonna give a soft contact, and you've seen a few dinks and doinks, and that's what happens with these submariners. But when it goes back to Helsley, this was supposed to be the 1B to Diaz, where we've talked about in the playoffs, and you need these bullpens, and this was supposed to be the guy that can hand the ball, and it's Addison Reed levels of like 2017 Addison Reed, where it's just like it's unnecessary, it's unfun to watch, and it don't matter how big the lead. He almost blew the game in Atlanta, comes in with a 13-4 lead or whatever, and he ends up it's 13-7. You're like, oh, here we go. And like the tipping allegations, and I find it funny that now anytime a pitcher struggles, he's just straight up tipping. Like I know what we saw Bednar a few years ago. It was pretty. That was an obvious tip.
It's very, to be honest, with Helsley, it does make a little bit of sense because of this high arm angle that he has that can make him very, very revealing. But when it's two pitches, obviously he's got to find a way to put them together. But continue.
and in St. Louis, he was somewhat incorporating his cutter, but then that kind of worsened his fastball. And then he kind of ditched the curveball. Like when he was younger, he had that big 12-6. Now he doesn't throw that at all. Now he's just throwing just the fastball and the slider. So he has the same mix as Diaz, but again, that's why. Obviously, with relievers, it's two pitches. That's what gets you. And you look at Trevor McGill. You look at most of the big relievers. It's obviously two pitch guys. But it's like the kind of struggle that I have with these two pitch guys is like, oh, if one pitch is not working, well, now you're just a single trick pony. Where like, okay, even if you're still throwing 102 and 103, this is the big leagues, and he's missing locations. Like if he keeps it up, that's where he can have success. But he's leaving that ball down, and it's I think in that Braves series, I think Gary Keith Ron was talking about it. Like he throws a fastball off the black at 102, and Albie still finds a way to perfectly time that up, and it's a ball off the wall in right field. Like that's a pitcher's pitch, and for him, it's still getting slammed because the slider is just horrific right now. So hitters can just say, all right, I'm gonna sit fastball, and obviously Albie's is a guy that likes the ball down and in, but still, it's like that's a good pitch, and you're getting beat. Like that's a problem. So. And there's nothing really the Mets can do because obviously now Reed Garrett's injured. Oscar Brasman, who cares? Like, you don't have many options. This is Rogers, Diaz, Rayleigh Soto. Like, you're not trusting Ryan Stanek. Jose Castillo. He's holding a roster.
You don't trust Stanek?
Which there is kind of like the small hope I do have. Because this does maybe this is worse than what Stanek was last year, but my only hope is, remember last year Stanek was horrific in the regular season, but once the postseason came, he became the second most reliable pitcher in the bullpen.
I don't think he's going to have that role though, unfortunately.
I hope not, but at this point, you gotta have to. Only way to hope is you can't put him in the lower leverage because, okay, you're going to move Rogers in the 8th inning. You still have to get that bridge to Rogers and Diaz in the 9th. So what role are you putting him in? Are you going to now elevate, or putting more stress on Rayleigh and Soto, the lefties? You're going to elevate those two guys. The lower, you're running out of options. Now Garrett's hurt. Brazaban's hurt. So the guys that you trust early in the season, those guys are no longer available. So you don't have many options. And there's not a reliever in the minor leagues that you can say, give him a shot. There really isn't. We've seen Dom Hamill, and he ain't got nothing. Charlie Coulson is even down in Syracuse that could potentially be.
Hamill, I don't even think Hamill pitched, but
I'm just saying
I can put money on the fact that he doesn't have anything.
Yeah, like there's no extra hope of like, okay, like we always like Deoka, but like there's not a Montez Deoka sitting down there like he's dead. Like there's not a last second, who's down in Syracuse? Like there is no option. So
there is one, but I don't think they're going to call him up. I think Dylan Ross is someone that they could make a look at. He's someone who can touch 102 and can get some really, really good chases. But I don't know if they look at it like that. But again, with Helsley, it looks like he was using the slider more in St. Louis. Like it looked like 48% in St. Louis, 45%. In St. Louis from his fastball, and ever since he came here to the Mets, it seems like we are 54% fastball and 39% slider. So I don't know why that's the adjustment that we are making. I don't know if it's basically just bringing the heat and trying to get ahead of the count, but it ain't working. It isn't working whatsoever. So maybe he needs to go back to the slider usage, and maybe it's just that. But he's also not able to locate the slider whatsoever. I don't know what the deal is with that, but that's kind of been his better pitch. That's the crazy thing is he can hit 102, 103, but again, if he doesn't locate it properly, these guys can hit 102, 103. We saw the Mets hit 102, 103 against Yohan Duran. Again, you don't have an amazing fastball shape. It's with Ryan Helsley's fastball. And that's the main reason as to why Edwin Diaz gets away with so much, is because he has a ridiculous fastball shape. But with Ryan Helsley, there's nothing really that amazing about his fastball besides the velocity that it carries. Like his what's it called? I mean, he has it's like 16 inches of induced vertical break, which is not crazy. But from that high arm angle, obviously it looks a little bit more crazy. But and obviously coming from 102, 103 with Diaz, obviously he has the deception of the low arm angle, that sidearm arm angle, and that little rise obviously to the glove side. It's a little bit different with Ryan Helsley as to he needs to locate the slider too in order for that fastball to work for him. Like the fastball and slider, like it's kind of the same as Diaz with where even though they're completely two different pitchers, but Diaz, yes, he can hit 100 on his fastball. Yes, he can hit the high 90s on his fastball, but the slider has to work. The slider has to be the thing that he utilizes because his slider has always been his more higher graded pitch. It's always been better, even though he throws a 103, 104 mile an hour fastball. So again, he's got to prioritize the slider, I think. I feel like that's the adjustment he does have to make because we can see the stuff is still there. But there has to be some kind of adjustments that are made that for some reason, that's just not happening. It isn't. His slider has always been his highest graded pitch. This year is a 151 stuff plus. This year, a 102 stuff plus on his fastball. His slider is the best pitch. It always has been, especially for a guy who struggles to locate. But when we're seeing 102, 103 going right down the dick, and these guys completely tattooing it, Ryan Helsley's just been Ryan Stanek. That's literally it. He's just been Ryan Stanek. So, again, I feel like the slider usage has to go down, and he's got to find a way to get ahead in counts. Because if he does get ahead in the counts, I do think that he can be successful. How long are they going to wait things out? I don't know. I don't know how long that's going to go. But we'll see. We will see what happens there. Obviously, the Mets bullpen has been tightening up recently. And, we'll see what happens. It looks like a big trade did just drop in the NFL. Micah Parsons just got traded to the Packers. Someone who I actually kind of expected that possibly happening. But again, this isn't a football show. So, wow. Big trade right there. But other than that, as we wait for Andrew to kind of configure his stuff a little bit. But no, you're okay, Daniel. I know you're a big Raiders fan, so it's valid. It's valid. You're a Raider fan just like me, so it is okay. But anyways, I'm just trying to, I think, Andrew just had to readjust some stuff. I don't know. But, nope. Okay. All right. You good? You good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, just...
Okay. Awesome.
Connection was being a little funky.
Cool. Anyways, so we were just mentioning the big trade that just happened in the NFL world, which I expected. I actually expected that to be the main destination for Parsons, which a lot of people were talking about for like other destinations, but I actually expected him to go there. But anyways, so other than that, the bullpen, again, it's looked better aside from Ryan Helsley. Tyler Rogers, I still trust. Gregory Soto, very hit or miss. I feel like that's more of a matchup guy. Brooks Raley has basically looked like the guy that he was before the surgery. Maybe the strikeouts are a little bit down, but he's really good at contact managing anyway. It basically, I mean, again, it does still show whether it was expected to fix it or not. It still does show the miss of AJ Minter. It still does. It really does. And I will never forget Big Boom AJ. I will never forget him. And I feel like he was a big part to this bullpen that, that's the type of pitchability that he has that is hard to replace. It is. It really is hard to replace. But however, they did bolster this bullpen in this trade deadline. They emphasized it. They traded 9 assets in total for Soto, Rogers, and Helsley. And it hasn't really come into its own just yet. And overall, Helsley has been horrific. Completely horrific. Yep. Matt, we love us some Big Boom AJ. We miss Big Boom AJ, and we hope that he's along for the ride during the postseason in the dugout cheering everyone on, because we love AJ Minter. So we wish him the best in his recovery from his surgery. But either way, speaking of health, let's actually get into the injury report for some things to report, because we have a few updates that are very, very significant, and we'll get into them in a second. But as for the overall injury report, filling in for Frank here, Mets reliever Huskar Brazaban underwent a MRI for a potential oblique injury yesterday afternoon. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza stated that the further imaging came back clean, and Brazaban has been optioned to AAA Syracuse as the corresponding move to bring up Kevin Herget, who's a right-handed pitcher. Mets outfielder / designated hitter Jesse Winker began a rehab assignment for Low A Port St. Lucie, going 0 for 2 with a strikeout and grounding into a double play. The 31-year-old was on the injured list due to lower back inflammation back in July, less than 48 hours after being activated from the injured list, coming back from an oblique injury from mid-May. The big one, Mets catcher Francisco Alvarez began his rehab assignment behind the plate for AAA Syracuse yesterday. He would double in his first AB, but he would be removed from the game later on after being hit in the left pinky finger by an 89-mile-an-hour sinker. Alvarez said today that he has a small fractured pinky finger, but is still hopeful he can play again this year. The current hope is that Alvarez can return in 2 to 3 days, as the 23-year-old is currently on the injured list due to a UCL sprain in his right thumb that will require surgery after this series. Alongside Winker, Mets outfielder Jose Siri will begin a rehab assignment for Low A Port St. Lucie yesterday afternoon. He played 5 innings in center field and reaching on a walk and a hit by pitch in his 2 plate appearances. Siri has been sidelined since mid-April due to a fractured left tibia bone that he suffered after fouling a ball off his shin. Other injury news that we saw, basically the inevitable, Frankie Montas is undergoing Tommy John surgery and is likely going to be out for the 2026 season, as we've talked about the complete disaster that Frankie Montas has been in his tenure as a New York Met, and likely he will never pitch for the Mets ever again, which is something that I'm not completely just, celebrating that the guy got injured. However, kind of an addition by subtraction with how bad that he was and how big of a disaster this was. Now, Francisco Alvarez. Andrew, I feel like they got to end this. I really do feel like they got to cut the cord here. I know that he's very important to this team. I know he is, but I feel like the hand injuries have been something that have impacted him multiple times already in his career, and it has affected his performance, especially the hitting, not to mention the catching and the defense and everything when he comes back. This is now the 4th structural hand injury he has had in the last 2 years. Like, I don't know how many times we can say it. Yes, it looked like he was playing catch earlier today. It looks like 2 to 3 days that he'll probably come back. It's not a big issue, but in this context, as a catcher, you need your hands. And none of these injuries have even happened with him behind the plate. It's just nuts. I just don't know how long we can do this. And if it's going to affect his performance, this is an issue. This is going to continue to be an issue, and he's only 23 years old.
Yeah, there's definitely a conversation. Again, like everything in the offseason, there needs to be a discussion. And the reliability, and yes, it's the catching position. You get beaten up, and guys, don't play unless you're named. Even Cal Raleigh, who's most likely, hopefully, winning American League MVP. Like, catchers do not play more than 100 games behind the plate. So there needs to be a conversation about, as great as Luis Torrens has been, and he's been a productive, elite defensive backup catcher, there might need to be some resources put into the, maybe getting a kind of Sean Murphy, Drake Baldwin type solid to good offensive catchers that can be brought in. There will be guys available. Obviously, M-Easy's putting the obvious name that was brought up by our buddy, my favorite, Bob Nightingale. I think there will be other options. I would do a lot of dangerous and dirty things to call the redacted athletics and try to get Shea Bangaliers. Like, there are guys to go get. And I'm not saying I need to full-on replace Francisco Alvarez, but I do think if you're platooning or just, 50-50, 60-40, you bring another good catcher, I don't see that as a bad thing. But I do think that needs to be something that maybe if upgrading the backup catcher, because it's been throughout his whole career, short, but, career, there has always been injury problems. And that's not even, again, like you said, none of them have happened behind the plate, which is where a lot of catchers get hurt. So there is some reliability issues that we need to have that conversation that, again, Stearns maybe needs to go out and upgrade that position. And, maybe you can, I saw a couple of videos being like, hey, maybe, Alvarez can DH, but like DH. And I'm like, there's no way possible with this team.
How many DHs you gonna have?
did this team needs? Exactly. Like, so I like Rutschman, and Rutschman has been in a steep decline, but
conversation for another day, obviously.
Yeah, but I do think
it's like
these injuries, the fact that it's all hands, it's just aggravating that this guy, like, it's unlike, oh, he just pulled a hamstring or he tweaked a knee. It's all hands. Like, I don't get it, and it is infuriating, and the patience is running very, very thin. But again, he is so young, and it seems every time, as soon as he get hot, boom, there's another hand injury and mess it all up.
There always seems to be something that derails him, and I've talked about this already. And this is not a knock on the talent that Alvarez has. It isn't, because we do believe that he could be the future catcher of this franchise for years and years to come. The problem is that even though availability is something that you always worry about with catchers with how much they get beat up, when you are seeing him get injured in the process of not even doing catcher things, it's not going to get any easier as you get closer to 30 for a catcher who gets banged up on a regular basis. So again, it is something it is a conversation to be had that Alvarez, I don't know if they can depend on him. I think they can depend on the talent seeping through and him contributing when he's out there. But we are looking at a Francisco Alvarez that continues to get banged up from a lot of different aspects. And even though these are just hand injuries, and Cena's just hand injuries, for a catcher, that's really important. Very, very important. And again, it's not going to get any better. It really isn't going to get any better. And I personally want them to end this for the rest of the season. I really do. I want them to just get the UCL sprain surgery and end it, come back in spring training. Because this is just, I said it already. I feel like even if he does come back, he's going to struggle. Because we've seen it twice happen already after a hand injury. And these are separate hand injuries that he's had. So the odds are is he's just not going to look great. Really. He's just not. And maybe it does. I know that he wants to play. We know. There's nobody questioning the work ethic of Francisco Alvarez. Nobody is. But this is a tough, uncomfortable situation. It's just an issue that we just continue to see over and over and over again. And everyone will continue to tell me, well, he has bad luck. He has absolutely no luck whatsoever. How many times are we going to say, or how many times are we going to see this happen until we're just like, okay, this is just what he is? Because the concept of luck, it goes both ways. And it's only been bad luck for him or bad things happening with him. This is now the fourth time in 2 years that he's had a significant hand injury that has structural damage. And again, these 4 injuries that we have seen in these last 2 years did not happen while he was catching, which is more alarming than it happening while he's catching, because you expect a catcher to get banged up. But it's not going to get any easier. It's not. It really isn't. Andrew?
Yeah, and it's the ticky-tackness of these injuries. That's what just drives me insane. It drives us all insane. But
yeah,
I do think to the point of, I understand why you want to come back, because this team's in a pennant race, and as much as Luis Torrens was productive in this series, overall you're not getting You're not going to get any offense from Senger or Torrens. So I understand that, yes, it's a benefit to have Francisco Alvarez, and let's say, if we're getting sometimes the offensive value that Alvarez can provide is immense. We saw it right before he got injured. He had that, he gets hit, he's getting red hot. So there is importance to have him in the lineup, but like you said, I think I'm the same wave where it's like you keep trying and all it's gonna take is one slide, one foul ball, and boom, there we go, and he ends up just have the surgery now, just get it over with. It's not a long recovery time, so just get it done, be ready in spring training, and stop worrying about trying to get back in the season. But yes, you're very important, but at this point, just do what's best for you. Just get it done, and we'll see you in spring training in February.
I feel like somebody needs to tell him. It's be like, you don't have to be the hero. You don't have to be. Get to 100%, because we know when you're 100%, you're one of the most talented guys on the diamond. And that's why I think what we're lacking here of just like, oh, well, no, I can just play through this. I can play through. Like, dude, this is again, when you're young, but if he's going to have the same mentality when he's in his 30s or something like that's going to be a little bit damaging. It is. And I love them. I love the fact that he wants to play. I love it. But it's like you have to put in reality into the situation. You can't just say, oh, well, I've had 4 hand injuries in the last 2 seasons. I can just play through it. That's a little scary. That is a little scary. I'm not going to lie. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Francisco Alvarez is not worth our time. He is. He definitely is. He's a very he's a rare type of catcher that you see come through the minor leagues. He was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball for a reason.
Yeah.
But we want to see why, and we can't if he's not on the field. And that's why I do continue to be thankful for a guy like Luis Torrens, who, even though he's not a great hitter, can hold the position down and play every day and not affect your lineup, especially with, other guys contributing the way that they have compared to guys in these last few months. So again, I don't know. Again, we don't have any segments lined up for Alvarez in this episode, but it's definitely going to be on our mind for a while of what are they going to do with this whole situation? Is there things that he does need to change to where he can't get hurt like this? But it seems like the ball or any injury is just finding his hand as of right now. But I don't know how many times we can keep this up to where we're saying, oh, he just has bad luck. Like, he's gonna have to he's gonna have to figure something out, because we can't talk about it every time holding our breath of him hurting himself every single time. And I know that he's tough. He is tough. He takes some huge hits. But there's only so much you can do when you're a catcher, sacrificing your body for, 200 pitches a day. It's rough. It is not something that should be taken lightly. It's a rough position to play. But either way, you said you had something you wanted to add?
Well, I guess it's more the off top. We finally got the package the Packers are sending.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good return. Very good return.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good return. Anyways, either way, dancing around that. But anyways, let's get into the sunshine segment of this, and that obviously being the long-awaited debut of the recent rising phenom known as Jonah Tong, who has been remarkable all year in the minor leagues, one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in all of minor league baseball. And he will be making his debut in Game 2 of this series, which is tomorrow night against the Miami Marlins. Now, let's get a little bit of a rundown of Jonah Tong, because I feel like he is someone who was not highly regarded at the beginning, but he has just shot up the board. And I do want to do a little bit of a rundown of what to expect with a guy like Jonah Tong and how special of an arm this could possibly be. So, Jonah Tong, like we said, will make his major league debut Saturday against the Marlins at Citi Field, which is tomorrow.
Friday.
Jonah Tong, if you don't know, he is 22 years old. He's a right-handed pitcher. Former 7th-round pick by the Mets in 2022. He is 6'1", and he has had a ridiculous season. He had 179 strikeouts, which led all of the minor leagues, not just Double-A, all of the minor leagues this season. First in earned run average among qualified pitchers, K rate, K minus walk rate, and opponent's overall batting average. He has 5+ graded pitches from an over-the-top Tim Lincecum type of style, 35-degree arm angle with a high release height, which is almost 2.6 feet. He obviously has an incredible fastball from that arm angle. He can reach up to 20 inches of induced vertical break. Ridiculous below. A ridiculous curveball, which he actually barely uses now, which with over 60 inches of vertical drop. Obviously, he also has a changeup, which gets him a really big amount of chases. He has struck out over 40% of batters this year in 113.2 innings pitched in the minor leagues. He has been ridiculous. Not to mention, he also can produce ground balls without necessarily a sinker. He barely even breaks any bats or anything. He's just so deceptive, and so he has such great late movement on a lot of these breaking pitches that he's able to get batters out in front, get them swinging late, and chopping things to the right side. So it's very unorthodox the way that he is kind of designed as a pitcher. 22 years old. This is now the 3rd level he will be pitching in this season. And we are definitely expecting to see some great stuff. Obviously, Nolan McLean set the bar a little bit for these youngsters already.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I will say, and I think, Andrew, I don't know if you would agree with me or not on this. I do think that there is a little bit of risk here. I think that they're being very aggressive. I do. I'm excited to see what this kid can do. However, compared to what happened with Nolan McLean, I think we have to temper the expectations a little bit, just a little bit, compared to what we saw from Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean developed very, very quick as a college pitcher, a lot older. Jonah Tong just turned 22. It's very, very rare when you see somebody this young storm through the minor leagues as a pitcher after 2 AAA starts. So I'm just saying, it's like there may be a little bit caution. There's probably a reason why they're facing a Marlins team instead of, having them line up against Detroit or Cincinnati. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. But I feel like you might experience a little bit more of the growing pains compared to the more finished product that you're seeing from Nolan McLean. But we all know that the ceiling is so high for this kid, and he has shown it in such quick time in the minor leagues this year, which has been a ridiculous breakout, nearly spotless. I mean, Jonah Tong set to make his debut. The excitement's brewing. We all know it is, because we all know all year he has put his name on the map, and he has become one of the best pitching prospects in all of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it just the unexpectedness, like you said, it's a risk, but yet it was a risk that needed to happen eventually, meaning he needed to get on the 40-man. So I appreciate it, and here's the other thing, which again, most, I guess some people, like, you need to get these guys if you want them. They got to be on the roster by September 1st if you're trying to use them in the postseason. So I do.
You have to be in the organization.
Organization.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was clarified by Tim Healy, actually.
Yeah,
former Mets beat writer who's with the Red Sox now. Yeah,
I know that. I guess that's just major leagues. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
kind of stupid sometimes.
Yeah,
new CBAs.
Just letting you know, so there's no panic.
No CBAs and stupid shit. But I was still playing in other situations. Like, okay, get aggressive, get him on the 40-man, get him on the roster. Say, hey, and maybe, and I think Howie was talking about this because I was driving back. I was at Springfield on Tuesday's game, and I think Howie asked Stearns this. He goes, did the results that McLean has put up potentially fast track a Tong, because obviously Jonah went straight to AAA and just dominated always. And did you see the spark that McClain has lit this team?
Oh yeah.
Does that make you a little more aggressive? And I think we talked about when we were talking about this last night. This is the most boom or bust. Not even bust, but this could be the most boom to, oh shit, this team can actually compete for a title. Is if he booms and he's a productive, he has a couple of great starts, cool. If we see similar results to what McClain has done, and that's a high bar like we've talked about with McClain earlier. You're looking at, what do we complain about all year? There's no top of the rotation reliability. If he hits and can get to 70% of what McClain has done, I'm not even saying 70% of the domination that McClain has done, you could go into a postseason series saying McClain, Peterson, Tong, Peterson, Tong, McClain. Like, now you're looking at, okay, that's elite stuff matching other elite stuff.
It's a lot of pressure to put on the kid. It's a lot.
But I'm not putting. I'm saying that's when I said it was a boom or it's a holy shit. That's what he can bring. I'm not putting, again. I am just let this kid. And I think Stern said it, or I think it was maybe this was how we talking about it. This is only guaranteed one start, supposedly. That's what Callie was saying on the broadcast on the radio side.
Yeah,
that this is only going to be a one start opportunity. We'll see, obviously, if he succeeds, and it's a great landing spot. No Kyle Stowers for Miami, so it's a pesky lineup, but they don't have their best hitter in their lineup being Kyle Stowers, so he's not going to play. So it's a much softer lineup than McClain faced in his debut when he had to go up against the Mariners. So it's a soft landing, and we'll see. Again, obviously gives Senga the extra day, and they needed an extra pitcher just because of not having the off day. But again, the expectation, and again, maybe we're just, we're breathing a little bit of that, like, hopium of, like, okay, like, yeah, McClain has come over, and again, McClain was supposed to be the number 2 guy. Like, this is the guy that everyone, and we've seen it, and like we talk about all the time, and again, this guy is an outlier, but we've seen it now with McClain. But Skeens came up here, he was fast track, he got up here and he's been dominating. And
Skeens is just he's a different level. Yeah,
that's what I meant. But you can compare, like, just the numbers of what Skeens in the minor leagues to what Tong has done.
True.
If we're just talking straight results in the minor leagues.
It does speak volumes. It really does. It really does speak volumes to see a 22-year-old, coming out of high school. He's not coming out of college. He's coming out of high school. Stormed through the minor leagues the way that he is. They gave him 2 AAA starts, and they're like, okay, let's bring him up here.
Get him up here.
That just shows me how much confidence David Stearns has in this kid. Because usually you don't see him be very, very aggressive. You've seen him be aggressive with promotions in the minor leagues. There's guys that there's been guys who they have drafted last year who are already in AA already. Some are in AAA. Carson Benj is in AAA right now. So again, there's been plenty of guys that they've done plenty of promotions this year. I mean, the minor leagues for the Mets has been very successful this season. We haven't really talked about it. Especially that draft class from last year, almost every single one of them is contributing at a very, very good level, and a lot of them have earned promotions. However, Jonah Tong, coming out of high school, 22 years old, I mean, it's a risk, but it just does show you how big they are on him. And I feel like we're seeing Brandon Sproat maybe get a little bit of that Blade Tidwell treatment right now, where he was just passed up by plenty of these pitching prospects, and they overlooked him. They put up Tong, the 22-year-old, who less experience coming out of high school. McClain comes up, has pitched less innings than Brandon Sproat. That says something. It does say something. So we'll see. And I know that Sproat obviously pitched in the bullpen, and I did not like the fact that they did that. But again, this is a perfect time to do it. You have 16 games in 16 days. You're going to need an extra starter. I'm really, really excited. And if he does do what we are expecting, like his expectation, it's going to be really, really hard to make it just one start. It's going to be really, really hard. Who ends up moving? I don't know. Would it end up being Clay Holmes to the bullpen and then they send down somebody else? Maybe.
I mean, that would be...
We'll see.
I guess,
and this is not a game I like to. Again, this is not a game I like to play. It never is a game I like to play. Of like, oh well, I like to. Let's just plug in prospects. We have this guy because it's like, again, like we've said, even with Noel McLean pitching as well as he has, we still have yet to see that first speed bump. You know, like there is going to be a few speed bumps. It's not like he's going to be perfect every single time. It's just the reality of young players. And again, I didn't even expect Tong to pitch this year in the majors.
No.
I don't even think they expected him to be in AAA.
No.
So I feel like he's just beyond the expectations. They're like, okay, let's give this kid a look right now. Let's do it.
Again, and this could be a conversation. Obviously, should be said after the start. But like, if he does again dominate the Marlins, which we kind of expect, I mean, to kind of connective points that we've talked about today, if a certain person in the 8th inning continues to falter, we do have a guy that has had elite high leverage success. So like there is the conversation. Like again, it's not let the kid pitch first. But all I'm saying is there are ways to maneuver the roster that can be. But obviously let the kid pitch first, and we'll see what we get after a starter. And if he does even if he makes a second start, then we'll have that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's the one thing is with this, the problem that I have with it is I think that the adjustment from starter to reliever or reliever to starter is always going to be rough because these are the types of reps that really bank into every pitcher no matter what. With Clay Holmes, I don't know because again he's a different pitcher now. He's very different. He is very different, and I don't know about. Again, I don't know about having starters going into the bullpen. Like that's things that I've kind of eased off of.
Yeah, I
like
guess
even if it explaining it the best way.
Yeah.
Brandon Sproat, like asking if he can be a late inning option or long relief or something like that. We saw how bad that was.
Yeah.
We saw how bad that was. And that's the development of a young player. David Price was in the bullpen. He was a veteran when he was doing that. You know, like there's different stuff that comes to it where you need to have a prep. Like Clay Holmes, he was originally a reliever. He could be a reliever, but now he's a starter, and it took him a long time to rep into that. Maybe it takes a little bit longer to go into a reliever like Jose Butto, but Jose Butto also had to make some adjustments too.
Yeah. I guess
so that's the thing. And then they're like, you know, Tyler McGill, putting him in the bullpen. Yeah, that's worked out. That's worked out well. You know what I mean? And every pitcher is different, obviously.
Yeah. And
every pitcher is different, and every pitcher can put in that. Like this is a good point. Peterson did well out of the bullpen in the playoffs as well. But I'm just saying it's like the overall reps. I think it's a little bit different with Clay Holmes. I don't know how that would go over well. I feel like you would be dealing with a Seth Lugo situation where they just didn't know what the hell to do with him. And
well, I guess it
kind of set him back.
This is where I guess I'm seeing and now especially now I can feel a little more comfortable. You know, again, it could change in about a week and a half, but, you know, we feel confident we're going to be in the playoffs. We could say that, you know, comfortable right now. It could change, obviously. It could change at a strike of a dime in three games and boom, it's gone. My thing is, playoff rotations in playoff pitching is different. So, obviously, Clay Holmes has done it. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that Sean Manaea is best. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just talking for just this year. I'm not talking about down the stretch. You know, guys are going to move to the bullpen come playoff time. So,
true, absolutely.
I am open to it because, and also, I guess this is maybe the funny thing, which is the guy we haven't talked about like as an option. Sean Manaea had his best outing coming out of the bullpen all year this year. Like, I mean, it is kind of funny. The best Manaea
that's
we've
more
got.
Of a ramp. That was more of a ramp.
That's a ramp up.
But it's
I understand.
Yeah.
But like, again, we are talking way too. Again, we're still 30 games. Just getting to that conversation we can have about the playoffs. But I've been obviously like we all are. We're seeing Mets fans talking on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And like, if again we're looking at all of it as the positive outcomes, like okay, if McLean is legit, you have Peterson. There's game 1, game 2 starters. Who's pitching game 3? Are you trusting Kodai Senga? Because I don't think Senga's the one guy he cannot come out of the bullpen. He is not. He has to start or he's useless. Like there is no confidence in him to be a reliever. So he would maybe have to be. If you're starting in the DS, let's say your wild card rotation is Peterson. Let's say you sweep the wild card. Let's be nice, be positive. McLean and Peterson are going to go 1-2. you'd have Senga pitch game one of the DS. Who's your fourth best starter? Like, and if you're telling me if between if Tong is
McGill.
what he is,
McGill.
shut the fuck up. Shut up. Again, you're looking at a group of Clay Holmes, NYM-MIA, or Jonah Tong. Like, one has been in the bullpen. Again, MIA would kind of be just for a playoff run. That like 3/4 delivery is an interesting, even though his velocity is down and maybe it would tick up coming out of the bullpen. It's an interesting idea. Again, this is what it's gonna be like. Let's just get through. This
I just feel like
first.
I feel like the prep for it right now is kind of rough. And like I feel like the window for it is slow.
But they have to get through. I guess it wouldn't start until you get through this 16-day stretch. I think once you get an off day, then I think you could maybe tinker a little bit. But you got to get through the stretch first of not having the off days, and we'll see September off days and whatever. Then you can maybe start tinkering a little bit. But right now, you need every starter you need till the next 6 days, 16 games or whatever. You need to get that done first, and then we'll figure out, start tinkering and say, hey, how are we looking playoff, positioning wise? Then maybe take those last week, depending on how. Again, if you're guaranteed a playoff spot, maybe that last week can be a tinkering last week of the regular season. Okay, what does this work? Does this work? And can this guy come out of the pen? But obviously you need to be comfortable in the playoffs and guarantee yourself a playoff spot before you start tinkering and playing around, potentially wasting games and trying experience.
Yeah. MAZ saying Tong only has 2 pitches, right? Doesn't that work better in the bullpen? He doesn't have 2 pitches, but he used just 2 pitches in AAA for those 2 starts. So that was the data that you just saw that I brought up. That was the AAA data of the characteristics of the attributes. He does have a cutter, and he has a curveball as well. So we'll see how that's utilized. I think that it's probably going to be more 2-pitch in his debut, but we'll see. We'll see how it's utilized. We'll see what they do. He could surprise us. He could disappoint us. Who knows? Obviously, I don't want to rely on kids to save this entire season. But if they're doing it, they're doing it. I'm not someone to say, we have a prospect, we can just plug them in here. So it's a risk, a big risk, very big risk. And I think that there are going to be some growing pains with Tong because I do think there's a tendency to lose the strike zone a little bit with him. Nolan McLean, it's more by design with the ridiculous spin that he has where he's designed to get chases like that. Obviously, that first start that Nolan McLean had, he was having trouble throwing strikes. Was that nerves? Who knows? Because he's been robotic ever since. However, Tong can be a little bit more erratic in that way, even though he can get plenty of swings and misses. He's got ridiculous stuff. I got to see him live. The amount of swings and misses he was getting was just absolutely ridiculous. And then he was called up to AAA like an hour after that start. I got to see his final start in AA, and all of a sudden, now he's already in the major leagues. So again, this is a fast elevation for him. He did not get those AAA innings, but he dominated in those 2 starts. So again, we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I can't wait to see this. And then again, there's plenty of other guys who the Mets have also in their minor league system. They have quite the depth of pitchers, and there's a reason why they were ranked the number 1 farm system. A lot of it has to do with the pitching. A lot of it. A lot. We have Sproat there as well. He's another guy. Jonathan Santucci is another one who's done really, really well this year. Second round pick last year. Brandon Gurton, R.J. Gordon has had a really good season. Jack Wenninger, 8th round pick as well from last year. I mean, they've had quite a few. They even have a guy who I think was kind of banged up. Austin Trosser's another one. He was just promoted to High A Brooklyn. I mean, they have depth throughout the entirety of this organization. And it's definitely been very, very impressive to see how quickly this farm system has been built. There's still obviously a wait until some of these guys come up here, but it is definitely exciting to see the young guys come up. I don't want to hear I think we talked about this off stream yesterday. I don't want to hear the comparisons to
or
yeah. I don't want to hear the comparisons to the DeGrom, Syndergaard when we have these guys, the DeGrom, Syndergaard, Harvey, Wheeler. I don't want to hear it. I want them to kind of have their own path here because we all know how that ended. That rotation only had one healthy turn through the rotation. I know everybody gets excited and wants to, everybody that has a scoreless outing, they want to compare to Jacob DeGrom. But, I want this to be a completely different thing. Because, again, I think we all know how that ended. It didn't last very long. And I see it more. I see that those young pitchers, that young pitching core, as more of a tragedy compared to a good time. Because I don't remember much of it being very fun. I remember it being, who's hurt now? Who's not available now? Who can't gain consistency now? Who's being a diva now? I don't remember. I don't remember that being really fun. I mean, obviously the 2015 World Series that it took us to, but after that, it was just a mess. It really was. And one by one, they all just completely disintegrated. Let's just say that. MEC saying, who picked McLean in the draft? That was Epler, right? Epler, 2022?
Yes.
Epler picked him. He was a two-way player out of Oklahoma State. And then Tong was also an Epler pick too. And so was Sproat. So, yep. But you've also had some high floor pitchers be selected by Stern so far that have done really, really well in the minor leagues. So again, Epler, as much as the criticism we have given to Epler for his tenure here, he definitely drafted quite a few good pieces. Let's just say that, and I am. Happy to see that they were landing into the hands of David Stearns, which has been very, very good into developing pitchers. And you're starting to see that come through the minor leagues. So Jonah Tong, I'm very, very excited. I think we all are. Let's see what he can do. I think that there's going to probably be an innings up-down limit where they're not going to completely push it. I don't think they're just going to say, well, he has 100 pitches, 105 pitches. I think they're probably going to cut it off at like 85 or 90, similar to what they kind of did with Nolan McLean. It's his first start. They're not going to go completely crazy about it. But again, this is a Marlins team that can swing and miss a lot. You said that Kyle Stowers is not going to be available in this series, so he has a chance to definitely impress. He definitely has all the tools to impress and give us what we are expecting. Obviously, going into this Miami series, let's preview what we got going on here at Citi Field. 4 games. The Mets have not played a 4-game series in a while. 4 games that are played, obviously against a team that we know they can beat. So a 4-game sweep. Who knows? I don't know. But because we're red hot and nobody can beat us. But anyways, let's get into the probables for this series. I'm not sure if this was completely updated just yet because there was... Yep. Perfect. Anyways, let's get into the probables for Game 1. Clay Holmes will get the start for the series opener. He'll face the 24-year-old right-hander Adam Mazur. First pitch is tonight at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. Game 2, like we just said, Mets top pitching prospect Jonah Tong will make his highly anticipated Major League debut, and he will face the hard-throwing right-hander Yuri Perez. First pitch is tomorrow night at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. Game 3, David Peterson will make the start. He will face the 27-year-old right-hander Edward Cabrera. First pitch is Saturday afternoon at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Pix 11. And Game 4 will go to Kodai Senga for the series finale, looking to escape this prolonged funk, like we just said. And he will be facing the also prolonged funk, struggling former Cy Young Award winner, Sandy Alcantara. First pitch is Sunday afternoon at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Pix 11. So 4 games to be played against a Marlins team late on in the season. We know that this is a team that seems to spoil us a lot whenever good things are going on. So let's hope that doesn't happen this time. But this is a Marlins team we know they can beat, but they're not a bottom feeder compared to what they've been multiple times. They still are. They've actually shown decent promise. I actually compare them kind of to the A's, because the A's, 11 games, 10 games under 500, but they still have talent. They have talent on that team. They have good pitching. So I don't think this is a team that you can just completely count out. However, it's a team they can definitely beat.
Yeah, they're the opposite of the A's, where it's the A's have a ton of great young offensive bats. Yes. The Marlins have no offensive bats. They're all just loaded with young pitching. And you're getting the big three. You're getting Yuri, you're getting Edward Cabrera, and you're getting Sandy. We've seen, which I think we found it. I saw a tweet where the Mets can beat up on great pitching. They've beat up guys like Logan Webb, Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo. You got three really good pitchers. Adam Mazur is the question mark. The Marlins are calling him up to start. 3 out of 4 is nice. Again, it's a tough game, but again, can you get in their bullpen? Their bullpen has some interesting arms, but nothing crazy. I mean, there's some Met killers out there. Bender's still there. They got that. What's the kid that throws 102? What the hell is that kid's name? Oh God, in their bullpen. What the hell is his name? He does 102.
Ronnie Henriquez.
Henriquez is in that. Yeah. So it's an interesting bullpen, but again, like you said, they're not an easy. They're not some of the worst versions of this team. They have great pitching talent, but again, you want to go anywhere, you got to keep the momentum going. You're at home. You have you have a big debut on Friday. You're coming off that high momentum of sweeping the Phillies. We've seen with this team where it's you're okay, this is where they start steamrolling, and especially after this series, you're going on that hell trip that is Detroit, Cincinnati, and back in Philly. So these are you got to take advantage of these games here. You're better than that team. I get they have great young starting pitching, but you've been proving it lately. You can beat good pitching. Don't stop the train now.
Yeah, exactly. Xavier Edwards, I hate him. I hate him so much. He's a good player. He reminds me way too much of when D. Gordon used to beat the living crap out of us. Kyle Stowers, like you said, unavailable in this series, has an injury. Jesus Sanchez has been...
He's in Houston? He's in Houston?
He's in Houston. Houston. Sorry, wrong Ez. Augustin Ramirez.
Yeah.
Augustin Ramirez. Yeah. Augustin Ramirez, he was in the Chisholm trade.
Yep.
And he's kind of slowed down a little bit, obviously, after that hot start that he had. Nothing too crazy. Their best hitter right now, like we said, Kyle Stowers, will not be in the lineup. They have a few role players, obviously, that have been okay, I guess. Nick Fortes is not on that team anymore, but he did play for them this year. So that guy who, for some reason, haunts our nightmares for some reason. Calvin Foucher. It seems like he's in the closer role this year.
Yep.
Like you said, Ronnie Henriquez having a really good season. Anthony Bender, once again, somebody that I would trade a lot for. Not going to lie. There was talks about him during the deadline. I love Anthony Bender. And then there's some other guys that they've recycled in and out right now. They have, their bullpen. Cade Gibson is another one here. Seth Martinez was in AAA. Tyler Zuber, former Met. He is actually on their active roster. So does he get some revenge? I don't know. But so far, he has not been fantastic for the Marlins. Either way, this is a team that they should beat. This is a team that they've had problems with in the past. Let's hope that they can contain them. However, here's one situation. Like I said already, Xavier Edwards, contain him. Please, contain him. He is one of the catalysts for their offense. He's probably leading off today, right? Usually does. Yep. Please contain him, because he's a pain in the ass. He really is a pain in the ass. Some guys who you're looking to, obviously Jonah Tong is the guy to watch, obviously, in this series. But 4 games to play. Who are you looking to, Andrew? Players to watch.
All right, let's get weird, because I think everyone wants the obvious answer. Let's get weird, because he's back in the starting lineup tonight. How does Cedric Mullins respond to Tyrone Taylor being red hot? That's what I'm interested in seeing.
How do you respond, 28?
How do you respond, 28? But no, again, he sat on the bench for a while. he's against the lefty, which again, made it. Oh, he's got good, reverse splits. He's facing a lefty. Tyrone Taylor has gotten hot. You want more playing time, buddy? You need to start getting hot. So at least match some
Jeff
energy.
McNeil can play Canterfield too,
and Jeff could play Canterfield and Rob Homer. So I'm interested to see how Mullen. Again, I know the fan base hates him for reasons. Again, he's not a great player, but again,
because he's not playing well.
He's not playing well.
Screw
he's not
him for playing bad.
Like, he's not a star, and it also hurts that Luis Robert was red hot after the deadline. But the White Sox are the White Sox. I mean, they're being stupid. But I am interested to see that. And obviously, it's Kodai Senga. Again, those will be the two guys that I'm watching. Again, can we get a start? And he's had off and on success against the Marlins. There's been some games in Miami where he's blown up. So this is a team, again, that has given him fits. So I'd like to see Senga respond again. It's an ace-off against him and Sandy on Sunday. So those are the two guys that, besides the obvious guys that I want to, let's see if have a bounce-back series or start.
All right. I, more than anything, want to see Mark Vientos keep this up. I more than anything want it because, again, obviously he looks a lot better. But, again, this is some good pitching that they're going to be facing. This is some good stuff from all of these guys. And Mark Vientos is another guy. And then I also want to see some power from Pete Alonso. I feel like we're just seeing a lot of contact from this guy. Come on, let's hit for the fences here. Come on, we gotta start beating the crap out of it. And then also Lindor, we all know does really well against the Marlins, so you gotta let him know. Obviously, put him out there. But other than that, don't troll in these 4 games. That'd be great because we all know what you're capable of. And that's what you just showed in these last 3 games. So let's make it make sense and beat up on a Marlins team that you should be beating up on. You should be beating up on them. That basically is the deal. Anyways, Andrew, great to have you back on here. Who knows when the next time will be. But any last thoughts before we hop off here?
Yeah, keep the momentum going, and hopefully the next time you guys see me will probably be the wild card. Because or hey, maybe I won't just show up to the World Series. Maybe that's the new gimmick. I only show up when the greatest series of the year. So hey, maybe I show up for the World Series parade. Who knows? But yeah, keep that hot play going. Keep the bats hot. Again, good pitching. Have fun. Have a little fun. Have fun. You're at home. You're coming off the energy of that series. Feed off that crowd. And kick some ass. I mean, just simple things. Make us believe again. That's all I ask.
Yes. Yep. They did a good job for this series. They got to continue. The job is not done. Even though we are in the Phillies' heads right now, you're still 4 games behind. You may have a little bit of a comfortable seat in that wild card. Never get too comfortable, please, because we have seen so many times in Mets history, any big margin lead can go like that.
Yep.
That's what happens when you take your eye off the ball. But other than that, we will send you guys out for about an hour from now to Citi Field, Mets versus the Marlins. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel and turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which mainly features our co-host, Frank, who is not here today. His post-game reactions after every single regular season game, which are titled the Mets Frankly Post-Game. Follow all of us individually. The links are in the description. And finally, let's go Mets. We will see you guys next time.